You are watching another episode of Steelers Crazy, a sick podcast production in tandem with Yinzer Crazy. That is at Jordan York Music. I'm at Mic'd Up Sports One. More importantly, we're going to bring on a special Steelers guest in just a few moments here to break down a lot of things we've seen this preseason. But first of all, just got to introduce Jordan. What's going on, man? How's life? In 2.5 weeks, we have Steelers football. And I think in about 2.5 months, you have a baby on the way. Which one are you more excited for?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say the baby just because my wife's upstairs. But
almost got you in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, man, it's a great time. College football starting this weekend. Pitt backyard brawl. Yeah, man, it's just a good time. Like I said, September going into the fall months, the latter part of the year. I mean, it's the best time to be alive.
I realized that our TVs aren't syncing up as well as I was watching this, so that made me laugh. We've got the same background today. Maybe our boy Sammy can somehow merge that and make it look a little better. No, that would be pretty complicated editing. All right, listen, in just a few moments, we're going to welcome on an absolute Steelers legend, honestly one of the best defensive players to ever suit up in the black and gold. He's going to talk a little bit about the Steelers defense and what we can expect from a unit that is much maligned currently at the moment. So you are watching Steelers Crazy, a sick podcast production. Sammy, do the thing.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Flacco Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
The man needs no introduction, but I'll give him one because that's what we do over here. He is a two-time Steelers team MVP and an all-decade player from the 1990s, former Steelers linebacker Levon Kirkland. Nice enough to join us today. There you go. Give him a big round of applause. Levon, how are you, man? Thanks for jumping on.
You know what? I'm doing better. I was kind of under the weather a little bit. I just finished taking my daughter to college, so that's kind of cool.
That's really cool. Where's she going? Is she following footsteps?
Excuse me?
Following your footsteps? Where's she going to college?
Not at all. She's going to Northern Kentucky.
Cool.
She's on a performance arts scholarship, so it's a little different than what I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That is tremendous. And listen, we're going to put you on our early blooper reel for the little.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what that was all about. It's kind of crazy.
No, it was cool. Thanks for joining us once more. We're obviously excited to talk to a legend, a guy that knows a little bit about
Steelers. You guys are welcome. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. So, hey, let's get right into it, man. You orchestrated that Blitzburgh defense. Back in the day, there was a certain aura around the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. When you went into Pittsburgh and played that defense, you knew it wasn't going to be an easy day. With you, of course, Chad Brown out there, guys like Kevin Green. I mean, the list goes on and on. First of all, tell me a little bit about just playing in that defense and having that vibe of where when you know somebody was coming to town, you were going to stomp on their necks.
Well, I'll be really honest with you. I think the tone set was started by Greg Lloyd and Rod Woodson. Those guys really set the tone for us on how to be a professional, how to play intense. And we kind of pieced that team together, you know. I came in one year. Kevin Green came in the same year. And then there was Chad Brown came in after that. Briston Buckner, I think, came in after that. And the team just really kind of gelled together. And it's kind of ironically, we all were wearing 90s up front, our front seven. So it just kind of meshed together. We worked really well together. So, yeah, it was an ownership as well, too. If you came on that field, it wasn't about pleasing the coaches. It was about really making sure that you did your job, but also you had to get the trust, or you had to earn the trust of your teammates. So that's what I really liked about when we played. There was definitely an honor system. If you didn't play 110%, you're going to get called out. And the defense was – the players on the team were not going to allow you on the field. So it wasn't just the coaches. It was also the players that really set the tone for the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the Blitzburgh days.
Yeah, no question. And it's funny you mentioned that everybody's wearing in the 90s. It does creep me out a little bit now when I see like a 46, like Tuska out there rushing the passer. I think
Right.
Travius Adams, nose tackle last year, was in the 60s, which, even us watching football in the 90s, you're like, all right, he has to be an offensive lineman. He's in the 60s.
Right. Exactly. Right.
That was kind of funny, man. I alluded to it right off the bat. Yet opponents had fear when playing the Steelers defense. I don't think that was the case last year. Obviously, a team that allowed the most rushing yards in the league, team that struggled at times, the back end as well. Have the Steelers lost a little bit of that identity, that Blitzburgh identity, that feeling that I mentioned of when a team comes into Heinz Field, they're in for a war?
I have to say, unfortunately, I think so. I don't think anybody feared the Pittsburgh Steelers defense last year. And the numbers really show, why would you? You do have Watts on the outside, who's an incredible player. You have Cam, who's on the inside, who's an incredible player. But the rest of I think in a lot of ways, the rest of the guys show up. And I think with the Pittsburgh Steelers, what you always had was a nice group of linebackers. And I'm not sure if our linebackers really played to the standards of which the Pittsburgh Steelers are known for. So that was difficult. And especially you think about the inside linebacker position, I don't really think those guys really got the job done. And I don't like to bash players at all. But if you're comparing it to the defensive reputation of the past, it wasn't quite there. And when you're running the 3-4, you definitely got to have a great nose guard. You got to have a really stout inside linebacker who can not only handle the run, but also be efficient on the passing situation too, because there are some times you have to carry a tight end 20 to 30 yards down the field. And there's also some times where you have to plug some holes. And I don't think they did that as well. And also you look at the outside linebackers, if you have just one good outside linebacker, they can just swing to that one side. If you have two good rushers, now it's a little bit more difficult. Now I think you would open up the blitz on the inside as well. But if you only thing you have to do is slide to one side or the other, I think it makes you a little bit. I think it makes it tougher on that pass rusher. So I think they missed some key pieces, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of to go off of, the identity, of the 90s Blitzburgh, we're going to talk about one person who has kind of been struggling, obviously picked in the first round a few years ago, Devin Bush. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on him to see if he, still has potential or kind of, where that at. Just get your opinion on that.
Well, James Harris got cut like 4 times.
Yeah.
So to say there's no hope is I wouldn't say that. But has he struggled a little bit? I would say he struggled quite a bit. I don't know if it's just his size or what the deal may be, but he seems to – I'm not going to say it seems to be lost in there, but it seems to be rough for him, and he seems to get swallowed up a little bit. And what I mean by that, when he's taking on blockers, especially straight up, it seems like he can't really get rid of the blocker. He really seems to get bear hugged. And you got to be able to hit and shed. And people would laugh at my size, but really that was the one advantage that I had was my size. My size was one of my biggest advantages, that I can hang with guards and tackles and fullbacks and had the durability to be physical with all of them. So I see that part of the game. I mean, that's a tough position too. You put him in a tough position like that where you're kind of one of the oak trees of the defense. You're supposed to be one of that solid foundation. And if that foundation is a little shaky, it makes the defense shaky. So in that 3-4, if you don't have a great nose guard, a good inside backer, strong side inside backer, you're going to be in trouble as far as the run game. And I think that's what the Steelers witnessed last year.
Yeah, I think you kind of said it because that was my next question is, do you think, we were 32nd against the run? I mean, I think we talked about it on the last episode. What really stuck out to me was that Chargers game last year where it was just like, I didn't even think that, was there anyone out there blocking anyone? It was just like, I've never honestly seen anything like it before in my life, to be honest, and not for the right reasons.
Right. Well, the 3-4 really supposed to be pretty good against the run because normally you shouldn't really get outside as far as the outside linebackers. They already get what we call a 9 technique, which is line outside of the tight end, which should bring everything back to the inside linebackers. Mm-hmm. And the inside linebackers are really supposed to make a lot of plays as far as the run game is concerned. So that was kind of the disturbing thing was that, man, people are just getting yards all day long. And I really, I can't pinpoint everything, but I don't think they were as good on the inside as they've been in the past. And I think losing Shazier really hurt.
Yeah, that's someone who's irreplaceable.
Well, what people don't understand, in a 3-4, that inside linebacker, what we call the buck linebacker, they may call it the Mike, or the strong side linebacker, who's usually aligned to the tight end. That is a tough position to fill and to find a guy that can get it done. A lot of times, it's not going to be the linebackers you see in college. Those guys normally don't get it done because they're basically just inside linebackers. Normally, you can get that position from somebody like I played outside linebacker in college, and because I had the size and the speed, I had to adapt my game, of course, from being on the outside to being on the inside. But I had the athletic qualities that you want: size, speed. Definitely I grew into the position as far as intelligence is concerned. But I think you have to get that size and speed. I think you can't go too little because if you do, you just get swallowed up. People are just going to run directly at you.
Yeah.
I think if you can't be slow because that's the case, they'll find ways to point you out or try to do things in a faster way. Me and Chad Brown were outside linebackers that were converted into inside linebackers. I don't know if you go that way or not. I'm not saying that's a proven formula, but I think I think it's hard for you to find a middle linebacker or inside linebacker in college and say, hey, we want you to play this scheme, and then on dime situation or third down, we want you to be able to cover, get interceptions, blitz. It takes a very versatile guy. It is one of the most underrated positions in football, pro football.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely demanding.
You talk about run stuffing, size, leadership qualities. Are you still able to suit them up and get out there? I mean, come on now. Maybe you lost the speed.
I definitely lost the speed.
All right, fair enough.
I definitely lost the speed. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it anymore, to be honest with you. I have dreams about doing it, but every time I have a dream, I'm always late for practice. I can't find the equipment, so it's probably my dreams are probably telling me to let it go. But I think always as an athlete and always as a linebacker, you feel like you can get it done, but I don't think that's the case with me.
That's interesting. I didn't see that answer coming. Maybe a tiny bit of consideration. Wow.
Tiny bit, yeah, but I don't know. I'm getting up there.
We are talking to active Steelers linebacker Levon Kirkland here on the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy. Thanks for joining us today. You know what's interesting, Levon? The last time that we chat, you came on the Yes or Crazy podcast about a year and a half ago. And I remember specifically it was before the NFL draft. And I asked you, everybody was thinking the same thing. Steelers are going to take a running back. Steelers are going to take a running back. They need to take pressure off the defense. I remember I asked you about Travis Etienne specifically. And, of course, they ended up going with Najee Harris, which was not a shock to anybody. You told me that day that having a running back, a bell cow like Najee, is maybe the most significant element to helping this defense. Najee obviously had a good year last year. You expect continued growth, and that time of possession, man, right, is so key to getting that D off the field.
Yeah, especially now because, offenses, man, they're geared to really, and the rules of the game makes it tough for a defense. Really does. And so if you can have a guy on your offensive team, especially a running back who can chunk out those 4 to 5 yards every time he gets the ball, it gives the defense a little bit more time to relax and regain that energy. Defense is all about energy.
Yeah.
And when an offense is back on the field all the time and your offense can't generate any kind of first downs or touchdowns, it makes it tough for the defense. So I always like a good running game. I know people say that the running game is lost. I don't think it is. I think it's always important, especially in the playoffs. But a good running game really helps out the defense a whole lot. So I think Najee is a good pick. I didn't think he can go wrong with either one. I mean, I like Travis because he went to Clemson, but Najee probably fits the Pittsburgh system a little bit better as far as a power back is concerned, a guy who can carry it 25 to 30 times. So I can understand the pick. But, man, I was just thinking running back, somebody who make things happen. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been in the picking players business way before I've been in it. So they're pretty good at it. So I'll leave it to them.
You're onto something. You're absolutely onto something that day, no question about it. All right, Levon, we'll leave you with this. Life after Big Ben. How difficult is it to lose a Hall of Fame quarterback and, quote unquote, replace that guy and enter kind of a new state of the franchise?
Oh, yeah, it's totally difficult because you rely on him so much. Big Ben, man, he could carry the load. Let's be honest with him. Maybe in his last 2 years he wasn't as good, but Big Ben, lousy Big Ben is better than a lot of. They wish they might have had a Big Ben and what he brought to the table, and I just don't think you replace the guy that quickly. The best thing you can really hope to do is maybe you get a guy who's a bridge guy, a guy who's a transition guy who can help you stay steady for a while. And then at some point in time, you get a chance, you can pick that big time quarterback. But man, when you get Ben Roethlisberger and he's no longer with you, you're going to miss a step or two. You are.
Levon, tell the people.
That's just the reality of it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. No question about it. Hey, tell people where they can hear you. You said the Believe podcast, Clemson previews and whatnot.
Yeah. Believe in Clemson podcast with Levon Kirkland. You can find that pretty much anywhere you look. I also do one called the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland, but that's basically a sports and leadership where we're really trying to do great things with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, which I'm a part of. And we're trying to educate, empower, and encourage our student athletes. South Carolina is 43rd in the nation as far as college and career readiness, and we feel like that is not acceptable. So our podcast gives us an opportunity to interview different programs around the state. Also, it gives an opportunity to talk to some of the greats from South Carolina that's made an impact on football.
Donnie Shell?
Well, we haven't got Donnie Shell yet, but we got a lot of other guys that have been in the mix, like George Rogers, like I'm trying to think. Richard Seymour has been on our show. Michael Dean Perry has been on our show. I tell you, South Carolina does really well as far as football is concerned and players. So we get those guys to talk about how they are successful and try to connect that with our student athletes that are currently playing football. And I know people would say, what about all student athletes? If you look at any stats, our males are probably having the most difficult when you talk about education and you're talking about getting the life started, especially African-American males. So we try to address the problem, and we try to make sure people are aware of the problem. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing, man. If If you want to hear some good stuff about Clemson football and football in general, man, make sure you give us a call or make sure you listen in.
No doubt.
Make sure you give us a call when you come back to Pittsburgh too. We'll go get a cheeseburger or something.
Oh man, I tell you what, there was this place in Pittsburgh. I forget. It was called a South Philly. Okay. Every Tuesday, I would get a South Philly, and it probably helped me with my weight. But those things are so good. I mean, they're awesome.
Got to add it to the list.
Pittsburgh has some really good food. I have to admit, some really good food there.
Because it's made with love.
It's made with love. But on my but I do think that Pittsburgh, the people from Pittsburgh, they have a funny way of talking sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was in the airport one time in Pittsburgh, and I saw a sticker that said Nebby. And that means a lot of people don't know what it means.
No,
I didn't know at first, but when a lot of people they're like Nebby, I'm like, oh, that's just mean you're being nosy.
Yep, you're being Nebby. We have a ton of that. The word slippy. That's not a word. We use slippy.
Gumband.
Of course, we use gumband. And then you got the elongated Yinzer accent, like when people say home, like you've heard that before. And then in that, Jordan threw a couple in that. Like the Steelers' run defense in that hasn't been good. That's your Pittsburgh lingo. You haven't really adopted it, which is a good thing.
But I tell everybody, man, that was a great place to play. I love playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The funny thing was, as a kid, I hated the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't like them very much. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. And my father ended up, my sisters and brothers, one Christmas, my father ended up buying me this gift, and they were just telling me how much I was going to hate it. So as I was opening up the gift, sure enough, it was Pittsburgh Steelers PJs. Had a football helmet on it and everything.
Wow.
And I did not like it. But it was so funny how I became a Pittsburgh Steelers and ended up loving the organization. My father must have been a prophet. Or he just didn't know about his son. I think that's it. He didn't really know that much about me. He didn't know I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. He just got Pittsburgh.
Oh, well, it all worked out at the end of the day, of course.
We're happy to have you.
It's an amazing thing. Lavon, it's been an absolute blessing to have you on. So much fun. Hopefully everybody that catches this episode, like I said, will tune in to you this fall. Nobody knows more about the game and the Pittsburgh Steelers than Lavon Kirkland. My man, all the best. Like I said, we'll see you in Pittsburgh having a cheeseburger, and if not, maybe on the field.
I don't know if I can run down with the tight end, but thank you very much for the confidence. I appreciate it. And I thank you for having me on the show.
Have a good one.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Wow.
Tell you what, good time. Anytime you can have a two-time defensive MVP, actually just two-time MVP of the Steelers in the 90s, as well as the 90s all-decade player, I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Personally, he was incredible, kind of overlooked guy. But if anybody knows about defense in the Steel City and playing at a high level, it's Lavon. Yeah, it's Lavon.
It don't get more Pittsburgh than that. That was literally the Kevin Green. That was the original Blitzburgh. They invented it.
You still see the signs. You still see the signs. Yeah, to Acrisure Stadium, you see the big Blitzburgh sign, and that's them. They were, obviously the great teams in the 70s. Nobody can ever forget. The 80s weren't so lovely, but the 90s, they came right back around. They did lose the Super Bowl, unfortunately, to the Cowboys with that team.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to bring it up. But I mean, listen, to have that kind of career, I don't think you can have too many regrets ultimately at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. So Steelers play Sunday. So we'll be back with another episode Thursday, as always. Thank you guys for tuning in to the #1 Steelers podcast in the entire world. Shout out to the people in the UK and Germany too, who have been tuning in, man. We really appreciate that, and can't wait to meet some of you guys when you come to Acrisure Stadium. Hey, Sammy, it's a wrap. We'll see you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.